This is the real essence of what makes a great sales and marketing company. Okay? And it's tough and it's boring. Right? But it is absolutely critical to the success of your sales and marketing organization. And it is, rigor, discipline around pipeline management, avoiding false pipe, educating the sales team that it is in their best interests to have well-managed pipe. And what I'm going to give you some examples. There is no point in having a sales organization where they say to you, we've no pipe, we've no pipe. And then the hero arrives over the hill, a bit like, Gandalf the Grey or Gandalf the White on the third day, with the deal in his pocket to save the month or save the quarter. I mean, it's the boy who cried wolf. You cannot build a machine based on heroes. Okay? That's one example. And then the other example of them having false pipe, like too much pipe, is it is legitimate of a marketing organization to say, well, why should we spend more on demand gen if sales say they have all this pipe? So you have to educate your sales team that having a good pipe is as much in their interests, so that when there is a board meeting, and I'm sitting on several boards, and the board will say, yes, we should spend more money because it's beginning to add up the business model. We want closed pans, we want next steps, we want competitive plays. See an ex-colleague of mine, Stephen, there in the background, he'd tell you what this is like because he was at the recipient of this. Weekly forecasts, commit at the salesperson level, etc., etc. If you get this right, you may not like the answer. I'm not suggesting that this makes the answer better. But what it absolutely allows you to do, and it allowed us in all the companies I've been involved in, is to understand the answer, understand the picture, and take corrective action. There's no point in saying, we'd a pipe to close rate of this, we'd loads of pipe, and it all fell asunder. You have to avoid surprises. Inspect what you expect. Bring science to the art of sales. Of course, there are innate skills in people that help them to be great salespeople. But you have to bring rigor. Define metrics. So AE productivity. If I'm looking at a SaaS business, I'm looking at an AE productivity of somewhere between $50,000 and $60,000 in ACV terms per month per AE. That's a very good measure because it equates to about $720K in ACV terms, which is a reasonable return, particularly in a mixed SMB enterprise organization. It's a great result. If it's just pure SMB, I drop the figure to 50K. Okay? And if you had an AE productivity of around 50K per AE per month in ACV terms, I would suggest you hire more salespeople. That's why it's important to measure. It tells you when to go. What is AE contribution versus productivity? Is how many of your salespeople, because what you don't want is a productivity which is skewed by 2 people delivering all the numbers and 5 people doing nothing. Okay? So you want that contribution mix where everyone is contributing or a high percentage post-ramp. What's your actual close rate? And most people misunderstand it. They look at it at a point in time like during a month and they say, we sold this, we divide by it. It's not actually what your real close rate. What your real close rate is if you take your average sales cycle, let's say it's 2 months, and it's now the end of October. So we go back effectively to the end of August or the start of September. Then we go a year back from that, and we look at all pipeline that was created within that year. And then we look at the stage of that pipeline. And hopefully, if our average sales cycle is a reasonable reflection, everything will have washed through. And you will get a true understanding. It's never as good as you think it is. But why is it important? It is very important for understanding not just pipeline coverage, which is the selfish interest of the salespeople, but it's very important, going back to deconstructing my quota, for understanding how much money I'm going to have to spend in my demand gen programs or my demand gen mixes. So that's very important. Pipe to spend is my absolute favorite one. Okay? I showed you the picture of the funnel. How do I know a funnel is working? How do I know I have sales and marketing alignment? And I have rules in place to accept and reject pipeline. But if I have those in place, if I have a pipe to spend metric, minimum of 8, hopefully up around 11, 12, I have a very, very good functioning sales and marketing pipeline. If you think about it, I spend $1, I get $10. My pipe to close is 25% if I'm in the decent to good category. Okay? So I'm getting $4. Okay? Yeah, 2.5. So I'm in a good position for my sales contribution to the cat piece. Okay? That's why it's important. If I have a PPC program, so you're doing ads that some people often do for near short-term acceleration, and the PPC is down in the 5s or less, I have a problem with the effectiveness of my PPC. Okay? Immediately, I know that. Then I can work backwards into the details of what were the MQLs or the SQLs that made that, and work my way back up the funnel to find the cause. But it's a great metric for understanding is your funnel. Lead conversion rates, source of pipeline, balance of new versus add-on is very important, particularly in early stage as well. You know, that understanding of land and expand, or seed and grow, whichever analogy you want to use. Depending on how much of that has a big implication for your marketing spend and the likelihood of your sales organization being able to get business. Because ultimately, when we do our forecasts and we don't like the picture, what do? We turn around, we sit people down and say, okay, how are we going to get more business? Where are we going to get it from? And this can be one of the levers. Why is forecast accuracy important? Forecast accuracy is important for the sole reason that it tells you, those of you in particular that are, you know, the CEOs are running your company, it tells you if your sales managers actually know what's going on. Doesn't mean that their crystal ball is better than your crystal ball. It's a function of knowing. And a very simple thing to know, and a good indication that your sales organization is broken, is if you ask a sales manager what's your commit, let's say for the month, and let's say for the sake of argument, they say it's 100K, and they say it's made up of these 5 deals. Okay, fair enough. And then at the end of the month, they do 100K, but it's 5 completely different deals. Okay? You might feel good about yourself that you got the 100K, but now your strategy is based on hope, not understanding and management. It's a very, very simple thing as to why you need to understand forecast accuracy. And not enough of attention is paid, and likewise with marketing, how many opportunities are we going to create this month? Okay, and hold them accountable. And you have to do this all day, every week, as a culture within your sales whether that sales organization has 3 people in it, 10, etc., etc. Okay, or going up as, you know, Salesforce will have thousands today. But this is not something that has to be done for big companies. This is something that has to be done for small companies. And if I was to say one thing about my friend Mark Benioff, he instilled this in all of us in the earliest possible time. Okay? So he was the head. This comes from the CEO down. It is not abdicated by you to your salespeople. Do not, please, one piece of personal guidance, given that I came from the techie world, do not abdicate that the world of sales and marketing is some black science thing over here, or art, I should say. that you don't understand, and whatever they tell you is okay. Use this to manage them. Last but not least, great idea, trick for recruiting people. Many of you have SaaS solutions, you will have trials. When they come in for an interview, get them to pitch your own product. Okay? And one of the reasons we wanted that in Salesforce.com in particular, we used to even get them to demo the product, was one, to see were they any good, but more importantly, in fairness to them, to see would they like it. And that's very important. Okay? Tell them what it's really like. Startups are difficult places. Ye all know this. You're living it. Okay? People coming from big companies, it's a real, real challenge. But whether you're a startup or a big company like Salesforce, spend the time training them on your value proposition, on your product, have them being able to demo, etc., etc. I would much prefer 4 weeks to be a short term in the life of a successful salesperson than 2 weeks of half training to be a long time in the life of an unsuccessful salesperson. It's costly, but it's where the payback comes from. Teach your managers to be coaches, metrics, etc. And as you scale, you can start about careers. So the person who does the inbound qualification moves to outbound, moves to junior SMB, etc. And that's a long-term vision. But you need to give that to people as part of your recruitment. And with that, I'll leave it to you.